I'll slide over to the middle a little bit.
It's time for a Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it because you're dead.
On Giants.com.
You know what I saw? New York
Giant Drive.
And the Giants mobile app.
17-14 is the final. One touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs having fun.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Big Blue Kickoff Live right here on this Monday afternoon. It's all brought to you by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. I am John Schmeelk. No one wanted to host with me today. I said I'm hosting, and everyone's like, I'm out. You're annoying. Talk too much. We don't want to talk with you. No, Sean O'Hara is out waiting to do a quick interview with a player off the practice field, and then he will join us. I'm used to, putting Sean on my back and carrying him, so I'm happy to do that for the next 10, 15 minutes until he gets in here. Guys, look, it was a bad game. Giants lose a very winnable game. I feel like I'm a broken record at this point, but that's where we're at. They lose to the Vikings 16-13, despite the fact Mac Brosmer had to play the entire second half of this game. Actually, I thought it looked just as good as McCarthy for much of this game. And look, I'm not going to – I watched every play on the All-22 this morning, but I'll just kind of go through the basics here, and then we'll open up the phones at 201-939-4513. Take your calls. Guys, you can sum this up a couple different ways. Giants with 141 yards of total offense, not a quarter, not and a half. That's in the game. 13 net passing yards, 33 yards passing for Jackson Dart. Those net passing yards obviously get reduced because of the sacks that the Vikings had in this game. Vikings did finish the game with 5 sacks. The Giants early in this game tried to run the ball, and they ran the ball successfully, by the way. But whenever they tried to throw it, it went exceedingly poor. They had 1 completion for 2 yards in the first half. They did not drop back a ton. When they did, they had trouble dealing with Brian Flores' either pressure packages or fake pressure packages and drops. Dart had trouble finding open wide receivers. He did not have time. There was a 0 blitz where they rushed 7 against 6. He did not get the ball out when he needed to. Giants had some trouble on communication on the offensive line. Then in the second half, the Giants tried to keep extra blockers in to prevent those types of issues. Andrew Thomas had to leave with a hamstring. John Michael Schmitz left with a hand injury. And then no one could get open. And Jackson Dart drops back. There's 2 or 3 guys in the route. The Vikings got 4 or 5 guys in coverage, and no one's getting open, and he has to take more sacks. So the offense was bad. The only reason they scored 2 field goals on offense, they scored a defensive touchdown on a Brian Burns strip sack recovered by Newman, returned for a touchdown. Only reason the Giants got their 2 offensive field goals is because on 2 third-down plays where Dart got sacked. So in reality, guys, he got sacked 7 times in this game. But those 2 sacks got picked up because of blows to the head on the sacks and unnecessary roughness penalties. So those 2 drives turned into field goals for the Giants. If not for those 2 penalties, which I thought were fine calls, the Giants scored 0 points on offense in this game. I didn't have a problem with the game plan. You ran the ball pretty darn well in that first half. You moved the ball up and down the field. When you did pass, it was a disaster. So did not have a huge problem with that. You had more drops in this game. Jackson Dart threw an interception, not his fault. Hit right off Theo Johnson's hands, went right through him, went right to the Viking cornerback for the interception. And then in the second half, he had a pass to Darius Slayton over the middle that hit him right in the chest, ended up being incomplete. The Giants did end up getting a first down on that series, so it wasn't, debilitating, but got to make that catch. First half, Theo Johnson had a drop. Wanda Robinson could have came up with a catch on a deep post on a cover 0 play. I don't think he thought the corner was going to recover on that. I think he thought he was going to be a free runner. But Rodgers, I think it was Rodgers on that play, right? Number 7. I think that might have been Murphy. Comes over late, knocks the ball away, and Robinson could not come up to catch. So for the couple opportunities, the Giants did have to make a couple of decent plays in the passing game. The receivers did not come through. Offensive line was okay, not good enough in pass protection. Again, they had some communication issues on some of those blitzes. Other times, it just wasn't directed properly. Ran the ball well. Tyrone Tracy, I thought, had another good game. Devin Singletary was pretty good. I thought they ran a lot more into the zone run scheme in this game. More than 2/3 of their runs were either inside or outside zone, which is not common for the Giants. They like using a lot of gap scheme, a lot of duo stuff, but they must have saw something in this game with the Vikings defense where they ran a lot of zone scheme, a lot of 2 and 3 tight ends, very heavy tight end game again for the Giants. Bellinger did a good job at fullback. Theo Johnson and Chris Manners did a good job blocking on the edges at tight end for the Giants. So overall, just not a very good day for the offense. They had a number of penalties in this game as well, both on offense and defense. It was a little bit sloppy. So just not very well played football game on offense for the New York Football Giants. Defensively, look, they were okay. I thought they played good enough to win for sure. They only gave up 240 yards in this game. Disappointed that after the Giants tied the game at 13, they allow, again, Max Brosmer, but it was primarily the run game for the Vikings on this drive, to put together a 14-play, 57-yard drive that went 6 minutes and 51 seconds to set up that 30-yard game-winning field goal. Again, most of the plays on that drive ended up being run plays, but you got the Vikings on the third play of that drive in a 3rd and 17. A 3rd and 17 with Max Brosmer as the quarterback. You know what you can't do? Allow them to get the first down. Now, to Brosmer's credit, he threw a really nice throw to Justin Jefferson on a deep out. It was a great catch, but they're in a cover 3 zone, and Deontay Banks just keeps backing up and backing up and backing up. And I believe it was Drew Phillips that was the flat defender on that cover 3 play. He does not get back and sink enough. I don't remember if there was somebody holding him down there in the flat, but on 3rd and 17, you got to make sure you have 2 guys on Jefferson there, and you cannot let him complete that pass to Jefferson on the 3rd and 17. They had a couple other 3rd and longs over the course of the game. Vikings in this game ran the ball pretty well. Overall, they had 114 rushing yards on 31 rushing plays, just 3.7 yards per carry, but I thought Aaron Jones grinded out a lot of yards on that game-winning drive towards the end of the game, which you don't like to see. And the Giants did not do enough. They did get the defensive score. They could have had another defensive score, but I talked about penalties, right? Abdul Carter ends up lining up off sides. You look at the tape. It was a good call. His hand is basically even with the ball, which is the neutral zone, which is an offsides penalty. So Carter played well otherwise. I thought they did a good job. They lined up more of him over the center again and the guards, where I think he had more success. Right now, he's just a better pass rusher and run stopper for that matter, as a stand-up player in the middle of the line where he can use his quickness against guards and centers than he is as a guy that's going to go up against those bigger, longer, more athletic offensive tackles. So I think the Giants are leaning into that a little bit. I think they did a good job with that. Brian Burns, a couple more sacks in the game, up to 15. A couple of freebies, really. It's not like these 2 sacks in this game, he's beating somebody one-on-one. One was kind of a good job of the Giants' defense. They blew up an RPO. McCarthy fakes the handoff, looks to throw. I forget who it was in the flat. It was either Phillips or Newman. Played good coverage, and McCarthy had to hold the ball. Burns comes in, gets the sack. On the other one, nice design. They fake an inside blitz. The Vikings end up squeezing with their pass protection plan. Nobody blocks. Burns off the edge. That's the play where McCarthy, I guess, hurt his hand. Whether it's a broken hand or not, I'm not sure if I've seen that announced yet. But he ends up fumbling, recovered by Tyler Newman, and he runs in for the touchdown. So defense made some plays, just not enough plays. They did not play quite well enough. I think Abdul Carter said it after the game. I thought it was a good point. He goes, we were the second best defense today. And if you want to win a football game, you got to be the best defense. And the Vikings defense outplayed the Giants defense in this game. Curious to see what the offensive line looks like for the rest of the year. Andrew Thomas left this game with a hamstring. He did not sound particularly optimistic about it after the game. So, as much as you want Andrew Thomas out there for the safety of your quarterback, is it a bad thing we get to see Marcus Bowe for a couple games at the end of the year? I don't think so. So I'm excited to see Marcus Bowe out there. John Runyon. I'm not sure if they announced the birth of his child yet, but I know his wife, they did. So officially the child was born. I know his wife was in labor yesterday and overnight Saturday into Sunday. So congratulations, John Runyon. Do we know boy or girl, Pearson? Do we know? All right, well, the child is here. So congratulations to them. He did not play in the game. Aaron Stinney had a holding penalty. Otherwise, I thought he did a pretty good job. I thought offensive line did a nice job in the run game. And then John Michael Schmitz hurt his hand. According to Art Stapleton, left the game in a splint. We'll see. Obviously, if his snapping hand, you kind of can't have a broken snapping hand or a really injured snapping hand, whatever it might be. So we'll see what that looks like. Austin Schlottman, though, when he's played this year, he's done a nice job. So I don't think that will be necessarily a huge debilitating loss for the Giants' offensive line, depending on how long he's going to be out. But there is a chance, I guess, we could see Marcus Bowe for the last couple of games against the Raiders and the Dallas Cowboys. Other notes from this game, let me see. I thought Chauncey Golston played a nice game for the Giants. Did a good job defending the run on the edge. Got in there a couple times. I talked about Abdul Carter. Talked about Brian Burns. Cordell Flott left the game with a knee injury. No word on how serious that's going to be. But if he can't go, that means we're going to see a lot of Deonte Banks the rest of the year. He had a couple rough moments in tackling and angles and stuff like that on the edge in the game. But Giants still hold the number 1 pick in the draft. Titans won yesterday. They beat the Chiefs, who had to play their third-string quarterback after Gardner Minshew tore his ACL. And I'll be honest with you folks, you know how much work I do on the draft? I had never heard of that Chiefs third-string quarterback in this game. Olodokun, I think is how you pronounce it. I'm not even sure how you pronounce the name. But the Titans win that game. So now the Giants and the Raiders are the only two teams with only two wins in the National Football League. So
the Raiders almost won yesterday, too.
Yeah, and the Raiders, you're right, Pearson. The Raiders gave the Texans a run for their money. So next week we'll go a long way towards determining who will have the top overall pick in the draft. I think the Giants are a better team than the Raiders. But look, Pete Carroll's still the coach. Geno Smith is back. You never know. It's in their building. But I would definitely consider the Giants favorites in that game next week. And then if the Giants do finish tied with that group of teams in second place, if the Browns lose out, they're a team that has a easier strength of schedule than the Giants, which means they would get the second pick. The Giants would be third. And the Giants are also kind of bobbing back and forth with the Jets in terms of strength of schedule as well. So it could be anywhere from 2 to 4, likely 3 or 4, if the Giants do manage to win one of these last 2 games. And again, who knows? Jets are going with Brady Cook the rest of the way, it sounds like. The Raiders, as I mentioned, have struggled. And we'll see how this goes the rest of the way for the New York Football Giants. But disappointing 16-13 loss, ugly football game, sloppy football game, not a well-played football game. And we'll see how the Giants rebound from this on this holiday week. I'm sure they'll give. I haven't seen the schedule yet, but I think they're giving them Christmas off, and as they get ready for that game in Vegas next Sunday. All right, 201-939-4513. What do you think what Harris doing now? Eating some lunch? Finish his interview, grab a snack before he comes in here, maybe?
They said about 5 minutes ago. So
Okay,
we'll see.
Good. He should be here shortly then. By the way, just for fun, we did the wins pool thing. I don't know what I'm hosting with Lance next. I think in 2 weeks, so we can do a little update now. Pearson and I have been tracking this. Pearson's doing a good job keeping up with it. So Lance and I went back and forth, and we both went one by one, picked the teams we thought would win the most games this year. And then, for fun, Pearson came in last of the teams that were remaining, and he ended up picking his teams that he thought would win the most games. And I'm trying to find it here, Pearson. Where is this on this document? Is it above the
wins contest?
I'm looking for wins contest. Where is it? Is it above or below the over-unders?
It is right below.
Right below the over-unders.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Where are they? Win contest. Here we go. So right now I am at 66. I lead Lance by 2. He is at 64. And then despite the fact that Lance and I both picked 8 teams, so we picked half the league before Pearson could pick his teams.
Correct.
He's not just beating us. He is beating me by 7 right now with 73 wins.
Can't believe you left me the Broncos.
Patriots, 49ers.
Well, Patriots and Bears, I guess, were less.
Broncos, 49ers, Seahawks, Dolphins, Commanders, Bears, Falcons, Patriots. Dude, you have the 1 seed in the AFC and the Broncos. The other team tied with them for the 1 seed in the AFC, the Patriots. Mm-hmm. You have the 3rd best record in the NFC with the Bears. And then the team that's tied with the Bears, right? The 49ers with the behind the Rams season. And the Seahawks. It has been a very, very weird season. For me, the Raiders were the team that, we each had to pick one team that finished, in the top 5 in the draft or something last year. I forget what my parameters were, but I picked the Raiders. That has not worked out. Pearson got the Patriots there. You want to look at where the difference is, Pearson. There it is.
Well, Lance got the Jaguars, too.
Yeah. So I lost 10 wins just off of those 2 games, right? Just from me having the Raiders and you guys having the Jaguars and Patriots. Yeah. I lost literally 10 wins there. And that's really the difference. The Ravens have not helped me. That has not been great. The Lions have been disappointing. The Rams had...
Packers have slid a little bit,
Yeah, that has not helped me either. Lance had Dallas, so that has not gone well for him. He also had the Chiefs, which has not been very successful. The Vikings and the Bengals also disappointing for him. And so were the Bucs for that matter. And you're surviving the Commanders, just having a bad year.
Yep.
But... when you get the Patriots, the Bears, and the Broncos, that'll certainly help you. And the Seahawks, for that matter. I think the Seahawks were one of the last teams I was considering, but they certainly helped us along the way. 201-939-4513. 201-939-4513. So, 7-game lead for Pearson with 2 weeks to go. He's in very good shape here to walk away with the victory this year. Let's go to Hugo in New Jersey. He will lead us off today. Hugo, what's going on, pal?
Hey, John, this is not revisionist history. I'm sure you recall the debate you, Matt, and I had before the draft. And I said that Joe Shane spent all his free agency money on perimeter players and didn't spend enough money on players that could stop the run. So this is the fourth year in a row that the Giants can't stop the run. It's very obvious to me. The problem with this team is it hasn't invested enough in the players that define physicality and toughness. Just look at the Chicago Bears. They invested a lot of money in two guards, and they could dominate the line of scrimmage.
Well, you're talking about stopping the run or running the ball, Hugo? Because I think the Giants have done a really good job of running the ball this year.
I was more concerned about stopping the run, but I was really thinking about all three.
Well, Hugo, I get it, but keep in mind, Hugo, just keep in mind, the Giants are a top 10 running team this year. So I think they've done a really good job being a physical run team, to be honest with you.
You're telling me that John Runyon and Greg Van Roten and JMS really moved people off the ball?
They are this year.
I don't really think so.
They're a top 10 run team, Hugo. What else do you want?
Look, let's be honest. Greg Van Roten's 36 years old, but okay. Look, let's not obfuscate, right? We have one good defensive tackle on this team. We don't have any good inside linebackers on this team. We may have one good offensive guard, a mediocre center, and a guard that's about to retire. What's going to happen next year?
Hugo, look. Hugo, in fairness, if you want to complain about the interior of the run defense, I don't have a leg to stand on there. That's fine. I have no problem with that.
Right.
The interior of the Hugo, wait, let me finish.
That was my
Hugo,
point.
I know, but you keep bringing up the interior of the offensive line. And Sean O'Hara joins us now. They've been excellent this year. Excellent.
They've been a strong point in this disappointing season. And to John's point, like, I think this has been collectively one of the best O-line performances as a group that we've seen in years. And a lot of it is because of the guard play. So I think Runyon's done a good job. Greg Van Roten. And also, you mentioned his age. Look, that's fine. You can mention his age. The guy hasn't missed a snap. Like last year, he was the only offensive player that played every single snap, Greg Van Roten. So what they've done, and just keep in mind, when Cam Scadaboo was healthy and when we beat the Philadelphia Eagles on Thursday Night Football right here in MetLife Stadium, it was because of the running game. We closed that game out. Cam Scadaboo was running all over people. So the run game, this is not a run-first offense, though. So you can't compare this offense to some of these other run-first offenses in the league because that's not the way the offense, the scheme is really built.
No, but Hugo, you're absolutely right about the run defense and the interior of this defensive unit. That we're not going to argue with. That's absolutely fine.
Well, let me even ask you about the interior of the offensive line.
Yeah.
How much of that running game is coming from the quarterback as opposed to just handoffs in the running back and dominating the line of scrimmage?
I mean, we haven't had since Dart's come back from the injury, and even the 2 weeks prior to that with Jameis starting, we have not had a lot of quarterback running the last 5 weeks.
But he had a lot of running yards.
No, he did early in the year. No, that's fair.
Okay,
that's fair.
Let's just say this. So, to your point, Jackson Dart has 407 yards rushing. Now, those are not all design runs. Those are scrambles, all right? But, yes, he is a part of the running game. But we also have 3 running backs over 350 yards. We're the only team in the league right now with 3 running backs over 350 yards rushing each. So it's not –
I don't even know what that means.
There are 3 running backs on our team that have rushed for over 350 yards this season. So we don't have a 1,000-yard running back, but we had Tyrone Tracy, Cam Scadaboo, and Devin Singletary. So what I was saying was Cam Scadaboo, when he was healthy, the last time we saw him pounding the rock was against the Eagles here on Thursday Night Football, and that running game was evident, and it was powerful. Now, if he doesn't get hurt, I think we are much more of a running identity offense. But we are not a run-first offense. Like, that's just not the way this scheme is built, whether it was with Dable or now with Kafka. I feel like we ran the ball a lot more in this last game. Part of it was because of the win.
Fine.
But
look, we're just not a physical team. We're going to get, I mean, based on the talent we have right now, we're going to get overrun. That's just That's just a basic problem. Look, Sean, you were the guy who said people get fired for the reason they're hired.
Yeah.
Joe Shane promised to build this team right from inside out. I think he's failed at that. That's just management by objective. It's not any bias. It's just
Hugo,
he's a great guy.
Hugo, just one question for you. No, Hugo, just one question for you. Offensively, are the problems with the Giants' offense what's happening inside or what's happening outside?
I really think they're kind of both, but
I would say right now the wide
outside,
receiver issues are much worse than the offensive line issues.
Yeah, but look, I just don't see this offensive line configuration as something sustainable.
Well, no, Hugo.
Let me ask you this question:
Hugo, that's a different question.
Players over Dickerson, Jurgens, and Steen? I don't think you would.
Well, I can say the Giants have run blocked a lot better than the Eagles' offensive line has this year, and it's not particularly close.
Yeah, they're not, and they battled some injuries too. They're not the same offensive line that they were last year.
But that's because Lane Johnson's been down and Dickerson had an injury.
Well, not just. Even when Lane Johnson was in there, they were still struggling to run the ball.
Watch what's going to happen over the next 4 weeks.
No, but Hugo, to your point, look, I don't know if Greg Van Roten's going to want to play next year. He's older. He might retire. I don't know what he's going to want to do. Jermaine Illumin was a free agent. And then the year after that, both John Michael Schmitz and John Runyon are free agents. So you are going to have to make decisions on these guys moving forward. I don't think there's any question there. We've talked about that.
Players and a couple of mediocre players. Oh, big deal. We got Thomas, and hopefully Marcus Bowe steps up and does something.
No, but Hugo, look, all I'm saying, Hugo, is that everything that – and look, you've been calling us for a long time. We've had a lot of these conversations. For all of the just garbage offensive line play we've seen here for 10 years – for you to just dismiss what we've seen this year, I don't understand it. It's so much better than everything we've seen for the last 10 years. For you to just like throw it away and say, it doesn't matter, they're not dominant enough. I don't understand it. I don't get it.
What I'm saying is it's really not sustainable.
Okay, but that's fine. That's a different conversation though.
These five offensive linemen are not. It's going to be a different starting five next year for all the reasons John just pointed out. Like, we don't know what GVR is going to do. You know, if he wants to come back and play, I'm sure they would welcome him back. But honestly, when they signed Greg Van Roten 2 years ago, he was headed towards retirement, and he came back to be the sixth man, and then he ended up starting at right guard and playing every single snap. And I remember joking with him. He was like, "This is what I signed up for." Like, you know, he thought he was just kind of hang around for a little bit. So that has kind of been his play has been much better than anybody ever anticipated.
Okay.
But
listen,
there may be a wild card there. We don't know what's going to happen with
mediocrity
JMS, and Andrew Thomas is not going anywhere. But we are going to draft offensive linemen.
Yes,
we are going to bring in offensive linemen.
I would definitely draft the guard pretty high.
100%. 100%. We need more competition. We need healthy guys, and we need guys that when somebody does go down, there is no drop off in production, because that's what you have when you have a good team. It's not just your starting 22. It's what are the other 30 guys bringing to the table.
I would also like
that's
that.
where the Giants need to do a better job in a lot of different positions.
And I would also like
Illuminor
back too.
$100 million were invested in a cornerback, a safety, and a wide receiver, and the Giants are getting dominated at the line of scrimmage, at least on defense. They're middle of the pack on offense. If that's where you want to be, you just want to be middle of the pack, fine.
Hugo, remember, but
you're saying a lot of things that they're not lining up.
You have to understand where they started. They were like the second or third worst offense in the league for 5 years. You're not going to jump from 32 to 2 in one offseason. To go from 32 to 15 is pretty good from one season to the next. No,
I'm not talking about that in 1 year. I'm talking about building something that's sustainable and dominant.
Well,
right.
Sure.
Well, the way you do that is through the draft.
Thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you got to do it through the draft. But I feel like he's talking about the offense, but then he's bringing up the defense, and then so I'm not sure which side of the ball he's really angling on. But you know, when I go back and look at this going to the defensive side of the ball now, he was talking about the money that we spent on the defense. Our defensive line is not getting pushed around. A lot of the big runs are because of our safeties and our corners and the second level defenders
and linebackers.
And the linebackers, those are where the big runs are coming from. It's not because Dexter Lawrence is getting pushed around or Brian Burns is not fitting in the run game. Like,
I don't even think Roy Robertson-Harris has been that bad this year. I think
he's been
had
excellent.
some moments.
He's been excellent. And I thought when they brought him in, he was kind of more like a third down guy. He's been phenomenal on first and second down against the run. I think the Giants have really struggled to replace Micah McFadden. Like, I don't think people realize how important of a player he was to this defense and how good he was. He could do it all at the will linebacker spot, blitzing, run defense. He was good in coverage. So that's been a big loss. But with the offensive, going back to the offensive discussion, John, you look at this Giants offense. When teams play the Giants right now, do you think they are worried about a receiver going over the top?
No.
So what are they doing? They're bringing a safety down into the box, and then they're basically saying, we're not worried about your passing game. We're not worried about you going deep. We don't have to double anybody. So we're not gonna let you run the football.
Well,
and
Sean,
there is a league at all these offenses that can spread people out and that have guys that you have to double. We've got to account for this guy. That takes a safety out of the box. So now you're running into a 6-man box all day long. I mean, you're going to rush for 200 yards if you could do that.
There's no one that a team has to circle with the red Sharpie before the game and say, all right, well, this is the guy we need to stop.
Yeah, 100%. And that changes everything.
Now, Neighbors will be that guy eventually next year when hopefully he gets back healthy.
Yeah,
and
he is
good,
that guy. And you know what? We need another guy.
Yeah, they do. You do.
You look around the league. Look at Cincinnati, right? You've got Jamar Chase on the outside. You've got T. Higgins.
Just look at the division, Sean.
They
look at the Eagles, Cowboys, and Commanders.
Yeah, they all have a 1-2. The A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and then George Pickens. I mean, him and CeeDee Lamb. Like, what are you going to do? You can't play single high safety against the Dallas Cowboys because of those two guys. So Wan'Dale Robinson is having a phenomenal year. He's having a career year. He's 99 yards away from a 1,000-yard season, but he's a complimentary guy, and he's not going to go outside and play that number one route. I think look at Baltimore. DeAndre Hopkins. He's not the same D Hopkins that we knew of down in Houston, but him paired with Flowers, like that they've got some dynamic guys out there, and I think Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams in L.A. When you have
Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's a running team. Detroit Lions, because guess what? Like, you've got to find a way to stop Amon-Ra. You've got to have Jameson Williams. You've got to have somebody over the top for him. So those things complement each other. And when you don't have that, now everybody can focus on one side of it. So it makes it tough sledding when you are running the football.
It does. I'm with you on that. And then, look, in terms of the defense, I always say this, right? A 40-yard run doesn't happen because of the defensive line. Maybe a 5 or 6 yard run happens because of the defensive line. A 40-yard run happens because of what's happening after the guy gets through that defensive line.
Yeah.
That's the problem. So you got to get all that stuff kind of squared away in terms of what's going on next. But look, the offense took a step. You're going to have to figure out what the offensive line looks like. I think both of us are very passionate about trying to bring Carmen Brasillo back next year.
Yeah,
whatever it might happen with the coaching staff, he's done a really nice job. I think that's one of the keys to the offseason, to be honest with you. We'll see what happens with all that. But look, you're going to have to figure out how to stop the run. They've been, since weeks last year here, they haven't been able to stop the run.
Yeah.
And they need to fix that. Until that gets fixed, nothing else is going to matter.
Yeah, and it's been perplexing because of the runs that they've given up. Some of it's guys just out of position, poor angles. Some of it's been sloppy tackling. I mean, they're not the worst tackling team in the league. Like, you would think that given how, usually when you look at a team that's struggling to stop the run, they're the worst tackling team in the league. And I feel like the last time I looked at it was probably a few weeks ago. They weren't, I mean, they're probably in the bottom third.
It was the bottom.
But they're not, they're not the worst or second worst in tackling. So it's really just a fit situation. And we've seen Deonte Banks a number of times come up and lose leverage, and let the ball get outside and get to the sideline. So
first play of the third quarter in the game yesterday happened again.
Yeah, and that's the stuff that just it can't keep happening.
Yeah, and look, you talk about spending money on perimeter players. The Giants had to sign a corner last offseason.
And they got a good corner. Now, he's been hurt. I think he's a good player, and I think he was coming off of an injury to the Saints. He had broken his leg, so he only played half the year, if I'm not mistaken. But he's a very good corner. He's very physical.
And even with those additions on the perimeter, the coverage still has not been good this year. So what happens if you didn't add those guys? What would this look like?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, look, when you got holes to fill, you can't fill every hole. It's just kind of the way it goes.
Has been, I mean, how many games, like the starting corners, How many games have they actually played together? Because I feel like it's always been Tay Banks has been hurt and Flott's been hurt.
To
and
start the
Debo's
year,
been
they
hurt.
were healthy. Once you got to like week 6 or 7, then that's when guys started kind of
Yeah, it
popping
was
in
like-
and out.
All of a sudden, we were scraping. We were activating guys from practice squad, and it's that's never a good thing.
All right, let's go to our buddy Scott, New Mexico. He's up next. Hey, Scott.
Hey guys, first I want to wish everybody at BBK a very Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Scott. You too.
And I think you both made really valid points, but to me, it's all about viability. I don't want to see a repeat of this year, no matter what the Giants do next year.
Yes.
And Joe Shane was the commander-in-chief. I don't think he's going to be back next year. That's just my personal opinion. But there's two statistics that pretty much size up, I think, what's wrong with the Giants. The first is the Giants themselves are 28th in the league in team opponents' first downs per game. And the other glaring statistic, I won't go into all of them, but the other glaring one is that the Giants' yards per play, they're giving up almost 6 yards per play, about 5.9 exactly.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And you can't have that. You're not going to win any football games that way. So to me, it's all about viability. And as I've said on numerous broadcasts, it starts with the head coach. I know there's been a number of names bandying about Luana Romo, Freeman from Notre Dame, Hafley from Green Bay, but none of them have had head coaching experience. That doesn't mean that a coordinator can't develop that. But if you look at the last regimes, all of the people that were selected had no head coaching experience. They were all great coordinators, but none had head coaching experience. And I would like to see the Giants, if they can, get someone who has that experience, whether it be McCarthy or it be somebody you get out of mothballs like a Rex Ryan, get him out of his ESPN contract and see if he can do something to motivate this team, because I think it always starts with the head coach. The poor tackling, I think, Sean, you were right about McFadden, but also there are multitudes of teams that have had serious injuries that still play complementary football. So the argument doesn't hold that much water because the other teams are showing they can lose players and still play a very formidable game. So as we move forward into next year, I would hate to see a repetition of this year. What do the Giants really need to do? Do they need to concentrate more on getting their defense right? Because defense is really important because they appear at times they can score points. There's also one other thing I wanted to ask, and I'll take my answer off the air, but if they do get the number one draft pick, I know they have a number of holes, especially at wide receiver, I think. But the question remains about Jackson Dart. I think he has potential, but dropbacks that ended with a pass or a sack, his QBR is 42.9. Now, I think that'll change as he develops, but do the Giants have time for that to happen? If Mendoza is available with the number one pick, who's a prototypical quarterback, and I've watched him in about 4 or 5 games, he might be the answer. But I'm not losing faith in Jackson Dart, so I wanted to get your opinion on that. And also, what do the Giants need to do to select a viable head coach? And I'll take your answers off the air.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks.
Well, let me touch on the Mendoza thing first. Mendoza's not like an Andrew Luck level prospect. He's a nice quarterback. If he was like an Andrew Luck level prospect, I think we have to have that conversation because those guys don't grow on trees. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of Matthew Staffords. Guys that are your prototypical super special talent as a number one overall pick. That guy's not in this draft. So I think if you get the number one overall pick, I think you're looking at the trade down for a team that's looking for a quarterback. You stack picks and you try to build your roster because I don't think nothing Mendoza or Dante Moore from Oregon have shown me that shows that they are that much more talented than Jackson Dart. And he says, well, can you afford to wait for him to develop? Well, if you're drafting a quarterback, you don't have to wait for that guy to develop. No one's going to be ready to come in as a rookie quarterback, Sean, and play right away. So no matter what you do there, the player's going to have to develop. So to me, if you end up with the first overall pick, to me, it's a pretty easy decision to find the team that wants the quarterback, trade down, and stack picks.
Yeah, I think if the Giants end up with the number one pick or the second pick, maybe even the third, I think trading down is the best option because This is not a team that is one or two players away. Like you need to cultivate this roster the right way. You need to draft impact players. So, yeah, I'm with you on the Jackson Dart thing. And you know, guess what? Every year quarterbacks come out in the NFL, and every year teams draft them. And guess what? Like half of them work, half of them don't. So it's the devil you know versus the devil you don't know. Like Jackson Dart could play, and I think to me, the Giants have their franchise quarterback. They are in the driver's seat right now with the draft, and it doesn't matter to me if they have the number 1 pick, number 2 pick, or 3rd pick overall in the draft. They're in the driver's seat because teams are going to need quarterbacks. They're going to need to trade up to get that guy.
There's probably only going to be 2 at the top.
Yeah.
So if you really want to trade down, I think you'd be well off to be in the top 2.
Yeah,
but we'll see how that goes.
I think when you look at once everybody starts getting into the draft process, like okay, if there's 2 quarterbacks, then the draft really starts with the 3rd pick.
Right.
And what player is that? If you don't think that player is worth a 3rd pick overall, then you trade back. You trade back to 7, trade back to 6, trade back to 8.
Unfortunately, it might be hard trying to find somebody that wants to trade up in that situation.
What is this draft going to be deep in, right? Is it deep in corner? Is it deep in receiver? Because I think if you're looking at the Giants right now, the Giants need offensive production. Look, last year, Abdul Carter, 3rd overall pick, that was to add to the defense. I think in the first round, if you have a high pick right now, I think you've got to find a guy that can get you points. Like you need a playmaker, whether it's a receiver, or whether it's somebody else that you feel like is going to be an impact player right away.
No, I think it's a receiver. I think
it's got to be a receiver. But I think that's where you're looking at, unless there's another defensive player, a corner, or a linebacker or a defensive end that you feel like this is a can't miss guy.
Would you consider a 3 technique defensive tackle?
Not at 3rd overall.
Okay.
I don't think. I mean, look, there are definitely outliers, and there are definitely different cases where that may be, but the 3rd overall pick, I mean that's got to be somebody that's impacting your team right away. But I think with Jackson Dart, the Giants are in the driver's seat right now, and if you're a coach and you want to be a head coach and you're coming in here, this is a great situation to be in. You're going to have great draft capital coming up in this year's draft. You've already got a franchise quarterback who is a dual threat quarterback. You could go out and draft another quarterback. He probably can't do what Jackson Dart can do with his legs. So that right there is a little bit of a unicorn as well. But I think the scheme that you're bringing to the Giants is a big part of it.
Yeah.
It's got to be like Jackson Dart, his entire career has been shotgun. So it's not, that's going to be a point of conversation. Hey, what kind of offense are we running? What is our scheme going to be? How do we want to handle this? And, I think not that Jackson Dart's going to have a say in who they hire, but I think that's something that you're going to want to look at and say, all right, is this conducive? And do you have a coach that's coming in that can get the most out of Jackson Dart?
Yeah, and I thought Scott actually dropped a really good stat. I talked about this on the postgame yesterday with Tiki and Bob and Paul. And as teams have started to take away some of his scrambling, his ability to extend drives has, I wouldn't say evaporate. I think that's a little bit strong, but it's certainly reduced.
Yeah.
You have not been able to stay on the field as well, taking away some of those 3rd down scrambles that he's been so good at. His teams, look, they're just getting better, being more disciplined on their rush, not allowing those holes for him to run through and run for yards. And look, that's the next step for him. All right, well, you know what? Now you got to solve your problems from the pocket, because they're not going to let you solve your problems outside the pocket on these loose scramble plays anymore. So
yeah.
That's the next phase of his development.
I think you shared a stat with me too about him versus man versus zone.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Which was a little bit surprising. But like, if you're playing the Giants, why would you play man?
You mean he's been better against zone than man.
Better against zone, right?
Because I think you do play man because the receivers can't get separation, right?
Right. What has happened and what I saw this past weekend with Brian Flores is he did a lot of zone coverage. A lot of the struggles that Jackson Dart had from the pocket were against a 4-man rush. Yep. He did not see the blitz very well. That time he got rocked by Harrison Smith. He had no idea he was hot, which is mind-blowing.
Because it was 7 guys rushing against 6.
Yes,
there was going to be a
+1.
free rusher.
And
correct.
there was 4 rushers to the right of the center, and you only had 2 blockers. The back went the other way. So, like, I don't know how he didn't figure that out. And guess what? They said, we got home with that blitz. We're going to bring it to the other side now. And guess what? Same thing. He had a free hitter. So there were times that he didn't see the blitz.
And then Flores really kind of called off the dogs in the second half of that game. He did not blitz as much.
He was showing blitz,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like a zone pressure. He would bring one dog. He would drop a defensive end. We call it a zone dog. So he'd bring a backer, and the defensive lineman would take one step forward to occupy the offensive lineman, and then he would back up, and he almost threw 2 picks in it. Like the one play he threw to Van Ginkel, who dropped in coverage.
It would have been picked behind them.
If he didn't, if Van Ginkel doesn't touch it, it's interception. I have no idea who Jackson was.
Who was he throwing the ball to on that?
I don't know if he thought Theo was stopping. Theo was running a seam route.
I know.
So he had Theo. Actually, if he'd thrown the ball to Theo,
I couldn't figure that one out either.
Would have been completion. So I don't think he saw the field very well, and that's why we saw him he was running around the pocket, didn't know what to do. It was a 4-man rush, and there were times where he had the tight end and the running back in. We call it 80 key protection. So we had 7 blockers. They were only rushing 4, and he still was kind of like running around I didn't know where to go with
and
the
then
ball.
In the second half, the Giants were only sending, sometimes 2 or 3 guys into routes, and the Vikings were dropping 4 or 5, and then no one could get open because you got so many guys covering only 2 or 3 players.
Yeah, I think that was a tough matchup for a rookie quarterback. Brian Flores showed him a lot of different things.
Put him in the blender a little bit.
Yeah,
he put him in the blender.
He definitely was seeing some ghosts.
Absolutely. All right, let's go to Aiden. And actually, we didn't. He asked about the coaching thing. We got to ask his question about the coaching thing. He wants the guy with experience, Sean. It's hard to find guys with a lot of successful experience because those guys don't generally lose their jobs, to be totally honest with you. He mentioned one of Mike McCarthy. Guys like Rex Ryan or John Gruden that have been out of the game for so long. I'm always very hesitant bringing somebody back out of the mothballs when they're out of the league for so long. Myself, I get worried about that sort of stuff. I don't know. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, I feel like
part of it.
It's kind of one of those things: supply and demand, right? So like we're in the demand for a coach, and right now I don't know how many are out there. I mean, like last year, like Mike Vrabel. There is no. I don't think there's a Mike Vrabel.
There is. I agree with you. I think the closest thing is probably McCarthy, right?
Yeah, McCarthy, and look, he's got a good winning percentage, and he's got his flaws too. I do agree though that like the first time head coach, and the analogy I've kind of used before is, like next time you go on an airplane, right? You're sitting in your chair, you're buckling your seatbelt. Like, you don't want a pilot to come on like, oh, this is your captain speaking. Just want to let you know, this is Captain O'Hara. This is my very first time flying. I've done it in a simulator, though. And I've been phenomenal. I have not had any crashes whatsoever, but this is my first flight. Like, that's not who I want flying my plane. Like, I'm getting off. Like, you can have my seat. I want Captain Sully. Give me the guy that landed in the Hudson over there. That's who I think the Giants are looking for right now. Is like, give me somebody that's been through the fire a little bit, that knows what's going on, that can handle all that. I think, Giants fans right now.
How about someone like Vance Joseph? Would that qualify for you, Sean? I know he didn't have a lot of success as a head coach, but he has been a head coach before.
Yeah, and it didn't go well. That's where you kind of run into, all right, are we hiring somebody who has head coaching experience? Like Steve Spagnuolo is another one, like similar situation.
Yeah,
now,
sure.
He was in St. Louis at the time. I think for Vance, it would be, all right, here's somebody who has been a head coach, but it didn't go very well.
Didn't get much of a chance, though, either. It was a very short stint.
It was a short hook.
Yeah.
I think that's, really, it's, you bring in a guy like Vance Joseph, okay, look, he can knock it out of the park in the interview and you love him. Who are you bringing with you? All right, he's a defensive coach. Who's your offensive coach? Who's your coordinator? What's your offense? That's as big of the part of the conversation as the guy that's interviewing for the job himself. So I think that's a big part of this whole, shenanigan now of bringing in if you're going to bring in a new staff, a new coach, who are you keeping from the staff, and who is this new guy bringing with him? Because that is such a crucial part of your coaching staff. Because the head coach, a lot of times you're like the CEO. You're working on schedules and discipline. You're not actually coaching a position group for the most part. But I think that's where you really have to lean on your coordinators and your position coaches, and they are responsible for getting your team ready.
And look, you have very talented coordinators out there. Jesse Minter from the Chargers is one. Chris Shula from the Rams. Don Shula is obviously for the Dolphins. 2 defensive coordinators I know that'll be on the top of a lot of people's list. You have Clint Kubiak from
Chargers.
the Seahawks,
Right.
who have done a nice job.
Yeah, who am I thinking of from the Chargers?
They have the former Ravens. The OC is with the Chargers. I can't think of his name. Greg Roman. Thank you. So you have. He mentioned Hafley from the Packers, another defensive coordinator. He was a former head coach at Boston College. So he's probably the guy that has the most experience, even though coaching in college is different than the pros. But
it's
again,
a 50-50 shot.
Are these guys ready? Like, I don't. It's hard for me from the outside to know whether or not they're ready to be a head coach. I just don't know.
Look at Detroit. right? So like both their coordinators get plucked.
Yeah, correct.
Aaron Glenn, defensive coordinator, played for the Jets. Like this, when he got hired, Jets fans were like, "This is glorious. We got one of us. We got one of our guys, a guy that played." And it couldn't have gone any worse for them right now. And then Ben Johnson, on the other hand, in Chicago and what they're doing,
it's going great.
It's phenomenal.
He's ripping his shirt off post game.
I don't know if that was what they were expecting when they hired him, but yeah, that was pretty.
I heard he actually did it in the interview. He actually ripped the suit off in the interview with the owner. Yeah.
Oh,
He said
okay.
that,
all right.
This is the plan.
Maybe that's
Shirtless.
the way to do it. Yeah, bear down.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go to Aiden in Boston. He's up next. Hey, Aiden.
Hey. So, John, you just mentioned two guys I just have a red flag on. I'm not sure. Did you get to watch the Rams Seahawks and the Bears Packers this weekend?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, and after that, I was thinking, I know, there's no, interviews yet or anything.
Hafley did a good job. I thought the Packers defense did a good job against Chicago in that game. I mean, they didn't really score until the very end.
Yeah, I mean, but just a red flag based off, how the Giants results with the defense, this year, I feel would you eliminate those candidates just based off one game, just, based on the pattern of what's happening?
No, because if they never get that onside kick, too, it's
game over.
That game's wrapped.
Yeah.
What's the percentage on recovering an onside kick right now?
5%, I think, something like that. Yeah, so no, I wouldn't take one game and then throw stuff out. Obviously, you look at the full body of work, and you see what your opinion is of the coach. And look, the problem with these interviews, man, these guys get so trained and coached up, it's hard to figure out. I mean, look, in any line of work, we've all been there. We interview a candidate, we think the candidate's going to be great. They come in and they're a disaster.
Yeah,
because they just know how to interview. So it's just it's hard to know.
Yeah. Oh my God! Sorry, am I still there?
Yeah, you're still on, Aiden. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, my friend tried calling me. I'm just declining. He's called me twice.
No, that's fine.
Anyway, I was thinking about what are you guys thinking? Do you think you bring in a defensive-minded coach? I'm not quite sure the last time the Giants brought in a defensive-minded coach and what your best approach with is, because I feel you need to know somebody who's gonna hold up. You gotta know what you're drafting this year. Obviously, you'll know if Joe Shane's going to be back or not, and also what the free agent situation's going to be as well. So, what's your what's traits in a coach? And right now, you obviously don't know who the Giants are going to interview, but who are some guys you would strongly consider bringing in? I really think you need to bring somebody from the NFL. I don't want somebody who's came from college, and some of the last few coaches, they just weren't as strong, and it didn't feel like they fit as well in what's going to be best, especially because obviously you've talked about this. The number one thing has to be how you're going to utilize Jackson Dart. And my fear is you're about Brian Dable seemed to fit well with him. You could see his stats fell off since half has been the interim head coach. But I just worry about also you need to absolutely nail it. Make sure you bring in the coordinators and everything, because you don't want something like Daniel Jones where he's dealing with a million coaches and coordinators, and that obviously didn't work out. I mean, there's some guys that seems to work, like Baker Mayfield, where he's able to revive in different situations, more coaches and everything, but I feel you absolutely have to hit it this time.
No, look, Aiden, I appreciate the call. You're absolutely right. Look, who knows who's going to shake loose, who loses their job after the year? That could be a conversation too.
Yeah.
But look, I think we talked about a lot of the guys that we mentioned, a lot of the names that are out there that I think you talked to, Sean. But look, to your point, there is no Vrabel in this cycle where that would be the Grand Slam pick. No, correct.
I mean, that's why this is all speculation right now, because we everybody's got to wait to find out. We don't even know how many chairs are available right now. So but it is musical chairs.
We know there'll be two, right? Because both the Titans and the Giants have made changes.
And guess what? We're not the only team that's going to be looking for a coach. So you kind of the process gets accelerated once the season ends, because everybody that needs a head coach they're looking at the same car that you are. So. Look, I know there was a name that came up a couple weeks ago, and they just they just lost last night, but like John Harbaugh's name came up, like that maybe his tenure in Baltimore is coming to an end. John Harbaugh would not be out of a job for very long. Like that's the kind of coach that demands respect. Like he's done it year in and year out.
He knows how to build a program.
He understands how, and he's a special teams coach, so it's like that's kind of what he hung his hat on, and that would be a name that I think would gravitate to, for a lot of Giants fans. That's a known commodity. But to your point about the defensive coordinator situation, look, we have not had a defensive coordinator here as a head coach in a long time. But when you look around the league, it hasn't really gone well for guys. But the counterpoint is, look at what Dan Quinn's done in Washington. Now, this year, obviously, it's been a mess. They've been the most injured team in the league. But last year, what he did in his first year. Now, you couple that with who did he bring in to run the offense? Cliff Kingsbury, right? He had just been a head coach. So that's been a huge part of their success last year. And then they had, Jaden Daniels coming in. So that's just as big of the equation. You could hire a defensive coordinator or a defensive-minded coach, but he's got to bring in somebody that basically is spending the entire time on the offense and can run it like he is a head coach as well.
No matter who I'm hiring, Sean, my first question is, what's your plan for Jackson Dart?
Correct.
That has to be your first question. It has to be.
Yeah, gotta have a powerful offense. Gotta have, the ability to run multiple different schemes. And I think that's a big part of the equation.
It's got to be. Al in Minnesota, he's up next. Hey, Al.
Yeah, hi guys. Hi. Yeah,
Hi.
I'm just gonna throw this name. I don't know if you brought his name up. Someone who is a defensive-minded coach who did have head coaching experience, and actually he had 2 seasons with winning seasons, and he was involved in renewing the team, bringing new players. And he was he's a New Yorker. He was born and raised in Brooklyn, and he loved the Giants. The only thing is, if the Giants end up hiring him, the organization should not be vindictive against him, because actually he did sue the Giants in the past because he lost an interview for Brian Dable. He was about to interview.
And Al, by the way, not in the past. That is a current, active lawsuit.
Right. It's a canon. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, Brian Flores, of course.
I don't see any way that could happen.
There you go.
How can you hire a guy that has a lawsuit against you, a pending lawsuit?
Well,
how would that even like? Do you think the Giants would even entertain it if Brian Flores said, "I want to come in and interview," knowing that he's suing them?
Well, that would be settled. I don't know if this is still active, but
would you hire somebody to come work in your house who was suing you?
Yeah, well, obviously, I didn't know if this was still active or not, but I know that he
No,
checked
you would
all the
not.
boxes.
You would not hire him. You would not hire somebody to come in and do work in your house if he was suing you.
Well, all I'm saying is he's a good defensive coordinator. He did have experience, and he did have winning seasons.
Yeah,
and
I mean, that's not nobody's arguing that, but like, it's pending. There's a pending lawsuit still.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean,
thank you, Al. Appreciate the call.
Okay.
And look, I'll just say this too: how he handled the quarterback situation in Miami isn't exactly encouraging for how he might handle a young quarterback.
Yeah,
either.
I don't see any of that happening.
Great defensive coach. Look, we just lauded his praises. Phenomenal defensive coach, but there's a lot going on there where I'm not sure that's necessarily going to work.
Yeah. I don't think we should waste any more time on it.
Any other young coordinator, Sean, that you've watched around the league, or teams that play a certain way on one side of the ball or the other, kind of really has you excited that you would, maybe at least want to talk to somebody and say, this is the type of style or play or anything like that I'd be interested in?
Yeah, I mean, the tough thing is whenever you're looking at these guys, like, they're not bringing the players with them.
Correct, of course.
So,
that's the trick.
Clint Kubiak, obviously, when you look at what Schottenheimer's doing down in Dallas, I think
he's done a nice job down there, by the way.
Yeah, I think he has. And when you look at, offensively, they've been lighting up. Just defensively, they can't stop a nosebleed.
Yeah, there has to be a change there this offseason.
So, I look at like Liam Cohen, what he's doing in Jacksonville.
Unbelievable job.
It's phenomenal. And Trevor Lawrence he's finally playing like the guy that they had hoped he would be. But the defense is playing well too. So, that's a guy that you look at and say, okay, you know what, he's doing well. Dave Canales, Carolina has gotten better this year. Last year was a train wreck, but you're looking for kind of who are those next guys. I think Kubiak is one guy that kind of jumps out of you. Look, I think Flores is going to get some interviews. He's definitely going to get some opportunity. I don't see how the Giants can have him on their list given what's going on, in the courts. But
how about Joe Brady from Buffalo?
I mean, he was down in Carolina, a few years back, and then that was kind of a weird exit for him, and I think it was early, and he was with Frank Wright, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah,
that was kind of an interesting situation. I don't know if. I mean, I will say this:
they run the ball.
He's got an athletic quarterback in Josh Allen. I feel like we've seen that movie before, right? A guy coming from Buffalo that worked with Josh Allen.
That's a good point.
That feels like a rerun right now.
That's a good point. No, I didn't think about it that way. That's a good point.
Josh McDaniels do anything for you?
I don't think you can go back there. I think that head coaching train has left the station.
Yeah, I think Josh. Denver was a disaster. The Vegas
that was not good either.
Was even worse. So I think he's used up all his cards.
Yeah, I think so too.
There isn't anybody that's like, hey, this guy's if you asked 20 people covering the NFL to give you 3 names, they would probably be 3 different names on everybody's cards.
Yeah, like there's not even, I don't even think like in my opinion at least, a coordinator that was as well regarded as Ben Johnson was last year coming out of Detroit.
Right.
You agree with that?
Yeah, there's nobody that's lightened up right now that has that same pedigree and that same gravitas right now in the league.
Would you consider a college coach? I wouldn't.
I don't think that's viable for the Giants right now. I don't think in this market and given what's transpired over the last couple of years, I don't think that's prudent. Unless it's a college coach that has previous NFL coaching experience, which I don't know who would fit that bill, but
right.
I think that's a different can of worms. No, I think it's got to be somebody with NFL experience. And listen, this is nobody wants to be the one up in this media room in a month from now, sitting here saying, "All right, what are we doing right now?" Like this is a very pivotal moment for the Giants. This hiring right here, because I feel like Giants fans they've run out of patience.
And rightfully so, by the way.
And I think the owners have too. Like they're sick of it.
100%.
Yeah, this is going to be a monumental coaching search right now.
And look, we'll have to see what happens after the season too, to see how quickly they can embark on that. You know what I mean? So you don't want to have candidates going off the board that you might like if you're going making other decisions at the time. You know what I mean? So it's all these things that you're going to have to figure out in terms of once the season ends, how quickly you move, what other decisions you make, and then get that process started as quickly as possible.
Yeah. And you know what? It's funny because we're talking about when the season ends. You know what? We've seen coaches get fired after leading teams to the playoffs too. So there very well could be a coach that took his team to the playoffs that ends up parting ways as well. So I think that everybody's got to wait and see who's available.
Here's a name. I'll throw a name at you. I was talking to my buddy who's covered the Browns for a long time. Would Kevin Stefanski interest you?
I think he would definitely. I would want to bring him in 100%. I think what's transpired in Cleveland as a franchise over the last few years.
Yeah, he's been put in a very bad spot.
I don't think anybody could have won more games than him, given what's transpired with the Deshaun Watson stuff and just. It's been very hectic. I could see him, getting a very good look at it, because he's got the offensive, concepts and minds, like you were saying with Jackson Dart. He's done it before, and I think, with all that chaos going on in Cleveland, I feel like he's been very stable. He has been the stabilizer and that component for that franchise. I think he could get a very good look.
Yeah, and it looks like Mike Tomlin's going to be safe again because they just keep winning games. That's a heck of a win against the Lions, by the way.
I mean, you can't fire Mr. T.
That is a heck of a win against the Lions.
Heck of a win. Heck of an ending.
I thought the second offensive pass interference call was the correct one.
Yeah.
But the first one I did not love.
No, the first one, I mean, the rub route, the receiver was trying to sneak by.
He was trying to run a slant.
He was turning to get through. I
agree.
I don't know how you throw that flag in that situation. The PA on Amon-Ra, it was definitely aided by Jalen Ramsey, kind of throwing his arms up, and that made all of a sudden now it's like if you're a zebra, You see that, and it's like, all right, I got to throw it.
He pushed off, though. He pushed off.
He did push off, which was unnecessary. He didn't need to.
By the way, it should have been forward progress before the pitch, too, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know how they didn't blow that play dead before he pitched it.
Yeah, he was on his way down. I mean, he was almost to the
held
ground.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting circumstance right there. But yeah, I mean, Mike Tomlin's a great coach.
Very quickly before we go, Sean, if I did right now, you had to tell me you think you're your Super Bowl favorite in each conference. Who do you think the Super Bowl favorite is in each conference, in your opinion?
Man, I feel like this week really shook things up.
Absolutely, that's why I asked you the question.
I think Denver would have been, right at the top there. The Chargers, they're just so depleted offensive line wise.
I agree.
I don't think you can.
I'm with you on that.
Put them in there. Jacksonville, they're like the new kids on the block right now, and I feel like I don't know. Like
that offense is flying, bro.
One-hit wonder. Like, do I want to say they're the favorites? It's.
You still have Josh Allen hanging out too.
Yeah, I think if you were to put me, I got to pick one team right now, not based on what just happened this past week, but I like the Bills. I think I've been wanting the Buffalo Bills to make it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, me too.
Just for the city of Buffalo. I think for Sean McDermott, Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen is, he's probably going to be the MVP of the league again. And I think Buffalo is probably the team that I trust the most.
Remember all that heat you took 3 years ago for suggesting you thought Josh Allen might be the best quarterback in the league, and look where we are right now.
Yeah, I know. I caught some heat over that.
Yeah, you did. You did.
Between
Absolutely.
him and Mahomes, which nothing to take away from Mahomes, but Josh is just he's special.
He's an alien.
Yeah.
And by the way,
he's an avatar.
Sleeper team,
huge.
Houston Texans.
Houston they're playing lights out. Their defense is rocking. Mm-hmm. Will Anderson's getting home. Danielle Hunter. I mean, that guy's got like 9 lives.
And Will Anderson's a monster.
Yeah, he's a beast.
And their offense their offensive line is now passable. Like they're able to run their offense. So
Yeah, they're a dark horse.
How about NFC?
NFC. Let's see. Who would I?
I think I would.
I hang my hat on.
Yeah, Pearson just said Rams. I think I would probably still. Here's the problem though. What if Devontae Adams doesn't come back?
Yeah, that's a big loss.
If Devontae Adams with that hamstring doesn't come back, I can't go Rams.
Yeah, I do. I like the Rams, and I like the fact that now people are questioning them because they were cruising along
and they were
at a nice clip.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when you're cruising like that into the playoffs, you kind of lose that edge a little bit.
Yeah.
But Stafford right now, I mean, we were talking about Josh Allen, how good he's playing. Stafford has been locked in all year long. This is the best I've seen Matt Stafford play.
He's playing good
in an entire season. He's taking care of the football.
And there was talk of him retiring last year.
And how about the whole thing with his back before the year, where they're like, oh, who doesn't even play this year with the back injury?
Maybe that's why he's playing so well. He's fresh. He came in the start of the season. He's like, man, this is the best I've ever felt. I didn't have to do training camp. I think. The one knock on Stafford was always that, look, he was going to just turn the ball over a lot. Like, he's always throws a lot of interceptions.
Doing that this year.
And this year, he's really cleaned that up.
How good is Puka Nacua?
I like the Rams.
He's unbelievable.
The catch that he made the other night, like with the defender's arms in between his arms, and he kind of reached around the arm and still trapped the ball. And he's doing it without Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
Which is pretty remarkable. Plus, they've got a really good 1-2 punch with Corum and with Kyren Williams. And I think McVay, look, when he made it to the Super Bowl that one year with Todd Gurley, it was all of that outside zone, and now he's
dual guy.
He's got the two guys. Yeah. Gurley kind of fizzled out during that run, and that's why they only scored 3 points in that Super Bowl against the Patriots. But I like the Rams.
Do you think anyone in the NFC North can make a run? I think they all have. I think they all are a little bit short. I don't think anyone. Doesn't look like the Lions are going to make the playoffs at all, which is crazy, by the way.
Green Bay would have maybe gotten a vote, but with Micah Parsons going down, I think that's a huge blow.
I'm with you
because their defense really thrived on him.
Yep.
Chicago, Caleb still just. I feel like every game there's still 3 or 4 plays where I'm like, what was that?
The thing is that, but then the next play he'll make a play and you're like, oh my god, that's the best throw I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's like that crazy girlfriend that you were dating. And I was like, that's it, I'm out, we're done. And then you're like, wait a minute, like, all right, I'm giving you one more try. Yeah, Chicago, they're a little bit they're perplexing right now with Caleb Williams.
Philly, I'm just not there with them either.
Philly, I feel like all year long they're kind of like the Chiefs, like right. It's like they got all this talent and like like because of what they did last year, the defending Super Bowl champ, they kind of get the benefit of the doubt. But I like the Rams right now.
I think it's the Rams, Seahawks, and 49ers. I think those are the 3 teams.
Seattle. I feel like Sam Darnold is doing right now what he couldn't do last year for Minnesota. Like they had such a good year last year in Minnesota, and then when they had to win the games at the end of the year against Detroit, Sam crumbled.
Hopefully that second half he had against the Rams in that game on Thursday night kind of pops him out of that pattern.
I think that he's kind of rewriting the history books for him. But I mean, look, Kenneth Walker had a monster game.
Yep.
And they have a two-headed monster there with Charbonnet. And Jackson Smith, just what an unbelievable season he's had.
And their defense is great.
Mike
defense.
McDonald's done a great job. Their special teams too. They're well rounded. So I think it's the two best teams in the NFC right now.
Home field,
the same division.
Whoever gets home field in that division and gets the 1 seed, that could go a long way towards determining this.
Yeah.
You don't want to have to play in Seattle.
No, that place is that is beyond loud. That's one of the loudest stadiums, and it's outdoors. Like a dome stadium's going to be loud, but that stadium.
And the 49ers control their own destiny too. So if they win out, they can win that division still. Anyway, we got to go. We got to grab some lunch. Sean, this was fun, man.
All right, Johnny, good stuff, man.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
Do you have any big plans?
I'm gonna eat, drink, and be merry.
Are you hosting any of the days?
Yeah, we're hosting Christmas Eve. My brother's coming up with his 3 kids.
We are also hosting Christmas Eve.
So it's gonna be a lot of good eggnog.
A lot of house prep the next 2 days, which I'm not looking forward to.
My wife is lighting me up right now.
Oh, yeah.
I've got grocery list. I need help with this.
Absolutely.
It's gonna be Panic at the Disco, and the disco is the grocery store.
Good luck, my friend.
Yeah, same to you.
For Sean O'Hara, I'm John Schmeelk. That's Big Blue Kickoff Live from the Hackensack Murray Hill Podcast Studio. Keep getting better. It's all brought to you by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. I'm not going to talk to you until after Christmas. Everybody have a great holiday. If you're celebrating Hanukkah right now, continue celebrating your 8 crazy nights. And Merry Christmas to everybody else. And we'll be back tomorrow and Friday. We have no show on Wednesday or Thursday this week. So Pearson can enjoy his holidays and everyone else can as well. So
ho, ho, ho.
Exactly right. Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy Hanukkah. We'll talk to you next time.